The other thing I do want to say, too, when it comes to Steph is, like, I don't think that Steph gets we know that Steph is the ultimate skilled shooter, point guard, all that. I don't think we give him enough credit for that Mamba mentality that we give to a LeBron or Jordan or Kobe. We don't give him enough credit for how petty and competitive he is the way that those guys were, right? He knew, like, hey, this is what I got to do. I got to be a better defender. I don't have to be all world, but I have to be a better defender, right? You look at somebody like Luka Doncic, he needs to do something like that, where he needs to be like, hey, like, I need to take my physical conditioning a little bit more seriously so that I can be a respectable defender. Steph knew that this is the one thing that people are targeting him for, and he wanted to fix that, and he did. So credit to him for being that type of a competitor. I don't think he gets enough credit for being that type of guy.
No, I agree with you. And it's actually something that I'm going to talk about, obviously by the time people are hearing this podcast next week, I will have already done this show. But like, I'm on the radio later today in for Grant and Danny. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is, like, I actually think, like, tier one of NBA history is like your Jordan, LeBron, Bill Russell, maybe Magic and Kareem. Like, there's 5 or 6 guys. And then there's like the second tier that's got guys like Kobe Bryant. And Steph's on that tier.
Steph's on that too.
And I think part of that is the competitive character. Like, you don't get to that level without the competitive character that Stephen Curry has. And that is also the kind of thing that gets you through those workouts when it is a grind, especially if it's a rehab situation. But even past that, like, to do a hypertrophy level workout, or to do a hypertrophy workout on like an NBA level, that shit hurts. And your body feels terrible. And to be one of the 3 best players in the world and be like, yeah, I'm going to go through that. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to make that change. I'm willing to have that diligence. Like, that comes from a competitive character that he has that just not everybody has. And it'd be real easy for him to rest on being extremely great, and instead he went for legendary, and you see how that plays out.
Yeah. And I think you see the best players in the world do it. Like CP does it, LeBron does it, obviously, the guys that take care of their body, because they realize that, hey, once I get to the NBA, and this is something that maybe a lot of people don't know, but it's really once you get to the NBA that you have time to do that. Because if you're an elite level high school basketball player, you're playing high school basketball player, then AAU, then you get invited to tournaments and this and that. So you don't have time to lift. And in basketball, that's not in the culture the way that it is in football, per se, right? Like, I'm not saying that strength and conditioning isn't a part of the culture. It is, but not in the way that football players get in and say, I got to get bigger, I got to get stronger, this and that. Like, basketball players, if you say, hey, we're working out for 90 minutes today, they want to shoot for an hour, and then maybe they got 30 minutes, right? And that's just not going to cut it when you're trying to get bigger, right? So it's really once you get to the NBA, like you look, Jason Tatum did it too, right? Like, Jason Tatum has changed his body since he's gotten to the NBA. And I remember working with him, with Drew and Pure Sweat when he was coming out of Duke. It was like, hey, like, we got to get him past his first NBA season, right? Because Jason Tatum, up until then, was high school basketball, AAU basketball, international basketball, then Duke, then Summer League in the NBA, then the NBA season, and now finally there's an NBA offseason where we can focus on strength and conditioning and get you bigger, right? So, like, and I think for a lot of people, they come up and they form those habits where strength and conditioning isn't a thing, and you can see for the guys that haven't embraced it, you can see that their careers don't take off maybe in the same trajectory or the projection that they thought, right? And then it takes somebody like an Andrew Wiggins to get around a Steph and a Clay to say, oh, wow, like, this is what it's actually supposed to look like. Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, Draymond, the way he's changed his body over the years, like, he was definitely a lot doughier as a younger player, and you just watch the work ethic and how it pervades that entire organization. And this is really the second straight year you can point to strength and conditioning as a huge factor in the best player taking home the title. Like, the transformation Giannis has made from a 19-year-old kid coming out of Greece, and like, it's remarkable. And I think the last point I'll make on the conditioning front of this, because we talked a lot, obviously, about it, I think it's easier to see some of the strength stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, that finish he made where he took the contact and wasn't phased, or whatever it is, or defensively he holds up. But on a conditioning element, for a sport athlete, your ability to execute the skills that you've practiced and you've taken all that time, the better condition you are, the less tired you are, the lower your heart rate is, the less strained your body is, the more precise you will be with your movements and the better decisions you're going to make. And ultimately, like, that's what wins basketball games. Good decisions executed well. And so if you are a guy like Curry who spends a ton of energy offensively running around nonstop, and then defensively you're involved a lot because the other team is trying to target you and you have to hold up, like, to be in mid-June in Game 6 with the load that he's taken and to be able to consistently still blow by the defensive player of the year and get to the rim at the end of a game or hit a big shot, that the corner three with about 5 minutes left and the pump fake that preceded it, the decision-making that went into that, to continue to make the right reads off pick and roll, like, your brain's still operating at that extremely high level. That is conditioning. That is whatever he did. And I don't know exactly what it is, and I would love to get and I think there are some articles that have been written, but I would love to get a deeper dive and maybe even go back and read some of those to refresh. But I don't know whether it was running. I don't know whether he spent a lot of time doing intervals on, like, non-contact type of stuff, like an assault bike, whatever it was. Part of it's his on the court training, obviously, and how they conduct those sessions. But whatever it was that got him conditioned to be able to withstand that kind of load and still execute at a high level deserves praise and should be studied, frankly, because it is as good as we've seen in this league. And it's just tremendous, and it's very cool to watch as not only a basketball fan, but someone who cares a lot about the strength and conditioning world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks for checking out this video. If you like it, we got more. Make sure you subscribe right here on YouTube and check out our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, or even our website. It's got everything there, all the links you could possibly want. Go check it out, trainwiththebest21.com.